We are back this weekend, folks, to talk about One Fight Night 14. As I said, if you watch the One Friday Fights 34 video, it is a big set of weeks for One Championship with back-to-back big events that started with that incredible fight between Rodtang and Superlek and continues this Friday, One Fight Night 14. Before we dive into this card that showcases some of the best female talent in One Championship, right at the top of the card with 3 World Championship contests and 1 special rules contest. Make sure to subscribe for more One content. Drop me a like if you've been enjoying the One stuff, all of that stuff that you already know. And of course, this card will air on Prime Video in the US or on One Championship's YouTube channel if, like me, you live in the UK. So let's have a look at this card. I think that every fight on here is worth tuning in for. This is a really strong one. The interest for me starts a little bit later on in terms of fights that have a ton of narrative, but you have got former title challenger Mauro Sorelli taking on Paul Elliott at heavyweight, and you've got the return of Edouard Folayang, of course, a fan favourite, who is on a bit of a losing streak right now, but we'll try and turn it around. Bout number 5 on the card currently, you've got Dmitry Menshikov. Currently, the card hasn't been updated. It lists him as facing Since McClinby, but I don't believe he is anymore. He's fighting somebody else. Menshikov is, of course, coming off of his title challenge against Regin Ursel, where he was unsuccessful, of course. But good to see him back in there. It's a shame. Like I said, I believe that the Klimby fight isn't happening. He's fighting somebody else. That's a shame because that would have been a really interesting one. I wouldn't have been mad at seeing Sintimet face Regin Ursel again if he had beaten Menshikov, but yeah. Bout number 6. This is where it gets real interesting. You've got Stephen Lowman taking on John Lineker at bantamweight. Stephen Lowman has had to wait a long time to fight. He fought at One on Prime Video 4, I believe it was last year, so it's been around a year since his last fight. He, of course, beat Bibiano Fernandez, the former bantamweight champion, in that fight. I think that was his 3rd win in a row since signing with the promotion. And he seemed set up to face the winner of John Lineker and Fabricio Andrade too. Of course, they had to go into a rematch after their first fight ended in a no contest. And it was for the vacant belt. So they had to run it back. They did that earlier this year. Fabricio Andrade put on a hell of a performance to win the bantamweight title. And now you've got Lowman versus Lineker as kind of I would say a top contenders face-off, but if John Lineker wins, does he get another shot at Andrade? I know that technically the first one was a no contest, so Andrade only won the first one, but we all know that he was on his way to winning that first fight as well. So I don't know if Lineker gets a title shot off the back of this. Chattery has already spoken about John Lineker facing Liam Harrison in a special rules contest. More on that later. But huge fight for Stephen Lowman to prove whether he belongs right at the top of this division, because I would say it's pretty clear that you've got Fabricio Andrade, then you've probably got John Lineker, and then you've got everyone else. So this is that opportunity for Lowman to prove that he belongs in that kind of top bracket with those 2 top guys. So huge fight for him and should be a really interesting one. Given John Lineker's style, he's never in a dull fight. Bout number 7, you've got a special rules striking contest. So what is happening in this? Well, you've got Xiang Jing Nan, the strawweight champion in MMA, is taking on Nat Wonder Girl Jarunsak, who is, of course, a Muay Thai fighter. And they are going to be competing in a boxing match, essentially, but in 4-ounce gloves. So expect a lot more dirty boxing, and it just changes it a lot. It's an interesting idea. We'll see how it plays out. As I mentioned, Chattery has spoken about potentially doing Liam Harrison versus John Lineker in one of these, which I would be interested to see. It's interesting for the Thai fighters because they're not going to be able to use a fair bit of their arsenal, and of course the same can be said for MMA fighters as well. So it kind of levels the playing field to some extent. Although, yeah, it's really matchup based, this rule set, I think, as to whether it works or not. So this is kind of the first experiment, and we will see how it goes. I'm excited to see how it plays out and whether it catches on and what the fans think of it and things like that. So an interesting won there. The first of 3 World Championship contests goes down in the atomweight division in submission grappling, where the inaugural women's atomweight submission grappling world champion will be crowned when Danielle Kelly faces Jessica Khan. Danielle Kelly, I'm sure a bunch of One Championship fans will be familiar with at this point. She has been competing in the promotion for a year plus, actually. I believe debuted at 1X against Mei Yamaguchi, if I'm right, and has won her last 3 in a row. I remember she beat Ayaka Miura, she beat Maria Molchanova, and then it was Yamaguchi before that. So a couple of fights under her belt now in One Championship, and seems to be growing in confidence, I would say. And the whole time she's been in the promotion, she's been talking about wanting to be a world champion in the promotion. And of course, now that opportunity there is finally here for her to join the likes of Cade Rutolo and Mikey Musumeci as a submission grappling world champion under the one banner. She faces Jessica Khan, who has beaten her before, so there's that narrative as well. Jessica Khan actually signed with One Championship around the same time as Kelly, but hasn't made her debut yet. She's been doing other things. She recently won a world championship at the IBJJF World Championships. That abbreviation always takes me 2 tries. Khan is 21-year-old, bit of a grappling prodigy, like I says, holds a win over Kelly from 2021, so a bit of history between them. Should be a very good contest, both very skilled, and yeah, excited to watch this one play out. Excited to see Khan debut in One Championship, because I think she could go on to be a really big star for them. And of course, Kelly is somebody they've been building for a while now as kind of the face of the female grappling divisions. I think that the issue we currently have with the female grappling side of things is we don't see it unless it's Danielle Kelly facing somebody. Which I understand she is the biggest name they have, and I hope that Jessica Khan being around will improve that a little bit, and we might get a little bit more depth to the division instead of finding MMA fighters and stuff like that for Kelly to grapple against. So we shall see. Hopefully this championship match starts a kind of a second era for this division and helps to kick it on. Co-main event, you've got the strawweight Muay Thai World Championship on the line. Smeela Sundell defending her belt. She was, of course, meant to be facing Jackie Buntan in a rematch of their inaugural title fight from last year, but Buntan had to withdraw. And so in her place, we've got Alicia Helen Rodriguez stepping up from the atomweight division, where she is the Muay Thai World Champion, looking to become a 2-weight world champion in facing Sundell, who, if you've never seen Smeela Sundell or don't know anything about her, she is an 18-year-old Swedish phenom. I absolutely love watching Sundell. Rodriguez became the champion at atomweight when she defeated Stamp 2020, was it? It was a long time ago, and then she took a few years off to spend time with her family, and then came back earlier this year and beat Janet Todd to unify the belts, and looked fantastic doing it. So I'm really excited for this one. I think that Sundell will be a favourite for good reason, just the superior size and stuff, but Rodriguez is really good as well. I'm expecting this to probably be the best fight of the night, and it's definitely the one that I've got my eye on the most, because I love watching both of these two, and excited to see how this one goes down. The main event, you have got Stamp Fairtex challenging for a world championship in MMA for a second time against Ham Seo Hee. Stamp, of course, an elite striker, the former atomweight kickboxing and Muay Thai world champion in one. Transitioned to MMA with the hopes of becoming a world champion in a third sport, and on her first attempt came up short against Angela Lee at 1X last year after an incredible first round, and then got taken down and submitted. And that really is the story of this fight. If she can keep it standing, you would imagine she has an advantage over Ham Seo Hee, who is a veteran at this point in her career, unbeaten since signing with One Championship. She beat Denise Zamboanga and Itsuki Harata. To find herself in this position is, of course, an interim title, because the current champion, Angela Lee, is inactive. I'm sure you will already know all the kind of details about that already, especially after all of the interviews that Angela Lee has done over the last week or so. Check those out if you haven't, and we won't go into them here because that is not what we are talking about. But this should be a very good main event. I'm very excited to see whether Stamp can finally become a world champion in MMA. Excited to see what that means for the division. Does Angela Lee come back? Do we get Angela Lee versus Stamp again, which would be huge? Angela Lee, of course, if Hamsiko He goes on to beat Stamp, then that is also a huge fight with Lee if she decides to come back. So yeah, a really strong card. 3 really interesting World Championship contests, I think. And the other one that is really jumping out at me is Stephen Lowman versus John Lineker. I'm very excited about that fight. And an excellent showcase of some of the best female martial artists that call one home. And that'll do it for this One Fight Night 14 preview. As I said at the start, hit subscribe, hit a like, all that stuff. Which fight are you most excited for? All of that good stuff. And I will catch you on the next video. Enjoy the fights.